northwest into the Hindu Kush, then east to the Hunza Valley in the heart of the Himalayas. Peshawar is a frontier city, and that's what its name means, frontier town. You can get anything in Peshawar, and I'm here to do a bit of research. I'm looking for a book called Lost Horizon, a British novel that provides the inspiration for my journey. And in Peshawar, there's a shop that should surely stock books by British authors, the London Book Company. Lost Horizon is an escapist fantasy about a utopia hidden somewhere in the Himalayas. It was written in the 1930s by James Hilton, and it quickly became a bestseller. Basically, it's the story of 4 travellers escaping from war-torn Afghanistan who get lost in the Himalayas. They're rescued and taken to a Buddhist monastery called Shangri-La. There, they find a modern-day utopia, a haven of peace and harmony, a place where people live to be over 200 years old. Their adventure starts in a plain high over the Himalayas. Of course, there was no Shangri-La. Hilton himself claimed it was a fictional place. But with the Western world on the brink of World War II, people wanted to believe it. And so a myth grew up. Maybe Hilton was hiding something. Maybe Shangri-La was inspired by a real valley, somewhere down there.
Well, the only clue that James Hilton gives us as to the whereabouts of Shangri-La is to say that the plane flew past K2 and Nanga Parbat, 2 of the highest mountains in the world. After that, it simply disappeared.
Nanga Parbat is a tantalising landmark. But for anyone who survived an aeroplane crash in the 1930s, the chances of survival up here would have been slim. They'd have had to trek through deep snowfields and treacherous glaciers. They'd have had to breathe in a rarefied atmosphere at altitudes of 20,000 feet, 6,000 metres or higher. And then there are the crevasses, deep holes below the ice, ravines covered for centuries by ice and snow.
From the left side.
Yeah. Every footstep must be planned. Every footstep could be your last. Nanga Parbat is the mountain that was James Hilton's last connection with reality. The place where the plane crash of Lost Horizon and the real world come together.
Well, we didn't quite make it to the viewpoint of Nanga Parbat. The snow's getting a bit too deep, and I can tell you it's very cold. I'm sounding a bit funny because my mouth is freezing up. This is about -20. This is, without doubt, one of the most extreme places on Earth.
But despite these dreadful conditions, people have been coming here for centuries, looking for Shangri-La. The first was Alexander the Great. 2,500 years ago, his armies came in search of the Fountain of Youth. His quest started where mine starts, in the Bombaret Valley, a remote corner of Pakistan, on the border of Afghanistan. This is the home of a remote mountain tribe called the Kalash.
It seems a very peaceful life here.
Yeah.
Before my guide Jinnah takes me to see the living Kalash, he takes me to see the dead. This is what's left of their graveyard, bones and coffins scattered by grave robbers and vandals. The reason? Pakistan is an all-Muslim country, and the Kalash are the last surviving non-Muslim minority.
It's very old and it's broken.
For 1,000 years, their Muslim overlords have called them Kafirs, the non-believers. As a result, they are an oppressed people. This desecrated graveyard, just one example of their persecution.
These were not Kalash people who took away the bones.
No, Kalash don't take.
They were Islamic people.
Yeah.
Once 80,000 of them lived in this valley. Today, there are barely 2,500. If anything, the Kalash look more European than Pakistani. There's an amazing prevalence of blue eyes and blonde hair amongst them. And there may be a good reason why. They say that even if Alexander the Great didn't find his Shangri-La, some of his soldiers did. They stayed on and intermarried with the Kalash, who still carry their genes. Not only that, but they're remarkably hospitable. Any visitor to this valley must drink the obligatory cup of tea.
Thank you very much.
So have you heard of the name Shangri-La? A place called a mystical place called Shangri-La?
Yeah, the name I know. The Shangri-La is a good place. The people say one.
So do you think it's possible to find it?
Shangri-La is very far.
Far from here?
Yeah.
Have I got a long way to travel?
Yeah, maybe it's in the Gilgit side,
Yeah.
somewhere. I think it's the special weather. Yeah.
So if I'm to find Shangri-La, I must seek elsewhere. I cannot stay long in this beautiful valley. Jinnah is heading south to Chitral, and there's an event on in town that he wants me to see. But there's another, more compelling reason why I must keep moving. As the great snow-clad peaks glow in the alpine light, they send out a chilling warning. Winter is approaching. My search for Shangri-La will be a race against time, as the early snows of the Himalayas threaten to cut me off and imprison me in this remote corner of the Hindu Kush. Every autumn, the wild horsemen of northwest Pakistan put their strength, courage, and horsemanship to the test. This is a game as old as Central Asia itself. It's called Bushkazi, and the object of their attention is a headless, legless goat. I'm in the frontier town of Chitral, up near the Pakistan-Afghan border. This ancient Afghan game isn't for the faint-hearted. Once a horseman has the goat, The opposition does everything in its power to get it off him. Which means a melee of grabbing, struggling horsemen, until someone makes a break. As far as I can see, there are few rules. Anything goes. Jinnah tells me a lot of old scores are settled on the Bushkazi field. Bushkazi started as a practice for warriors to pick their wounded comrades from the field of battle. And new heroes are still created with every game. But if I'm to find Shangri-La, I must keep moving. The first autumn snows are already falling, and there's only one road out of the Chitral Valley. Time to hitch a ride.
We're just coming up to the Lowry Pass, which is about 2,800 metres high. About 4 or 5 months of the year, it's cut off by metres of snow. And that's what makes these valleys so separate from each other and why the cultures are so different, because you just can't travel for many months of the year. It should be open now, even though it's November and the snows have started to fall, but you just never know in this country if you can get through or not.
I've now left the Hindu Kush, and I'm entering the Himalayas proper. My destination is the Swat Valley. That's if we ever get over this pass. Because of the snow, the road is too narrow for passing. And since there's no regulation of traffic up here, vehicles going up come face to face with vehicles going down. And there they stop and argue. Eventually, they manage to dig away the snow. They tell me that this happens every autumn. It's crazy, but that's the way it is. Well, we made it, but it was slow, nearly 8 hours to travel just 50 miles, or 80 kilometres. I'm passing through the Swat Valley, which should by rights have had a claim to being the inspiration for Shangri-La, because this valley was the birthplace of Tantric Buddhism. Not that long ago, there were over 1,400 Buddhist monasteries in this one valley alone. Today, Islam holds sway, and the relics of its Buddhist past have suffered accordingly.
This is one of the sadder realities of this part of the world. This was once a Buddhist civilization, and these sculptures are all over the place. But sadly, because in Islam you can't portray a deity, they stone them, hence all the stones around here. It's one of the sadder things about this part of the world.
Where once there was a peaceful Buddha's face, the icons of Western consumerism have been pasted. So how did James Hilton envisage Shangri-La? The words of Lost Horizon come flooding back.
Shangri-La was touched with mystery. Listening intently, he could hear gongs and trumpets, and also the massed wail of voices. He found the traditions, both Buddhist and Christian, very reassuring. The whole atmosphere was more of wisdom than of learning. The High Lama had skill in telepathy and powers of healing. The monks had discovered the key to longevity, to semi-immortality.
30 or so years after Hilton wrote those words, another group of people searching for Shangri-La flocked to the Swat, the hippies. This was one of the stopping off points on the hippie trail, leading from San Francisco to Kathmandu. In fact, the Swat's always been something of a haven for foreigners. 100 years ago, the British came seeking relief from bustling towns like Peshawar. It was they who stocked its rivers with trout. My companion Moambar Khan has benefited from both associations. He likes fish, and he used to run a boarding house catering exclusively to hippies, even if he didn't always approve of them.
Woman, like, if woman legs is looking, legs, this is bad in Islam. When the woman here looking, this also bad in Islam. But if you take your trouser out and you put short trouser, and when you walk now, also the people put you stone or say, look, this stupid man.
So if I was wearing short pants, would they throw stones at me?
Yes, and they're thinking, "Pa, you very bad man."
Yeah.
Because like you, like animal, no understand. Go in the street and no clothes.
The hippies are long gone. Free love and Islam were never going to mix, nor were the guns. 2 valleys east of the Swat is the town of Bishan. No one bats an eyelid here as gunfire racks the streets. Guns are a way of life. Blood feuds are an institution. These inter-family, inter-tribal battles cause thousands of deaths every year. The penalties of the ancient system magnified 1,000 times by the killing power of modern weapons. Machine guns, rifles, shotguns, pistols, all made right here, despite what the labels say.
It says made in Italy here. Not made in Italy, made in Bishan.
They make ammunition here too. It's estimated that 60% of all Pakistani men own a gun. In fact, more children will learn to use a gun here than will finish school. So, a valley that makes so many deadly weapons is hardly a place of harmony and boundless peace.